very common. And the very common one of a crooked horizon or crooked buildings. And it takes training to see them, but once you learn how to see when something is crooked, it's impossible to, as they say, unsee. And so you may be surprised when I pick up on some of that, that the images actually show that. Okay, so we'll start with color. And I'm just going to go through these in the order that they were given to me to go through. So there's no particular order. And then at the end of each section, we will show the images that won honorable mentions, third, second, and first place. So first we go through all of the images, and hopefully you'll find this instructive, and helpful to your photography. That's my goal. So this one, yeah, there it is, the title, A Boy and His Dog. I certainly like the story. Right away, that's the thing I see, is the story. And I don't mind seeing images with their backs to me when there's a story like this, which is really precious. The dog is leaning into this child, and that right away gives you this an emotion. It looks like, the other thing I love about this image is the layers. Now, see, you can have layers. Landscapes, often you see layers, but you see the front is very interesting because it's this textured reflection. Then you have a wave, and then you have still water, and then you have, or slow moving water, and then you have another wave. It's alternating textures, which is very interesting. And the horizon is sufficiently straight, so that's lovely. This image unfortunately has some kind of aberration in it, and I think it might have been because there's not enough sun. There was not enough light on those parts, but there's a modeling effect on the backs of the legs, up the arm, the shirt, and the dog. And it's probably because of the lighting. You could also try to address that in post, but it's a tough one to address in post. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't leave that on very long, did I? Okay. A chorus of trees. The reflections in this are beautiful. Fall, of course, gives us this pleasure. And so this person really features the reflection beautifully. And I don't mind that the horizon is almost in the middle. It's a little higher than the middle, but I don't mind that at all. I think it's very hard to choose a section of trees like this that has a beginning and an end, but I think this maker did it beautifully. In that these trees in the foreground provide an anchor point, and they also have the sharpest reflections. And then you have the rest of the trees in the background, basically. And the weighting is very nice because these two in the foreground are forward and larger, but there's more trees on the right-hand side in the back. So it gives it an asymmetrical balance, very nice balance. I would like to have seen sharper leaves. You can also accept it as just a smooth interpretation of the scene. However, I'm thinking there's so many leaves and they're so beautiful that maybe I'd like to see them a little bit sharper. And this one's called Ancient Glory. I like the fact that the camel is coming in from the left-hand side, could have been coming in from the right, but the fact that he's entering the scene makes a nice story. And there you have the pyramids. And it's interesting how large the camels look compared to the pyramids. You might think the pyramids are small, but here we have a distant, it's difficult to see exactly, but it looks like a couple of animals with a rider. So it gives you scale, which is very nice. This is quite far away, and these are even further away. So we can assume that the pyramids are larger than they look. And the sky is very nice too. The sky is soft, and yet it has texture in it. It's nice. Okay, so different, huh? Are you sure about the blue? This looks very purple to me, by the way. I don't know if you see that as purple, but I see this as a real purple blue or a periwinkle. There's a lot of different names you could give to this shade of blue. This is bluer and this is purpler. So the colors are nice. The colors are really interesting, and I'm sure that's what attracted you about it. Um, it's there's a lot in it. I wish that it could be pared down a little bit more, perhaps with a different angle or maybe shot closer in. Um, I think you intended to get a little bit of the garden, and I understand that too. Um, there's something about this picture that may have been hard to detect, but my eyes can see it, and that it is a little slanted. This building here, this line here would be the line to assess whether or not you have it straight. And these lines are tilted to the right. In a picture like this, it's kind of confusing because you could use this line, you could use the tree line, but the center building structure that stands out the most would probably be the best to straighten this with. Around the lake. What a wonderful curve. How could you not appreciate that fabulous movement of the curve and then going over the bridge? So there's these two marvelous lines that really brings this image together. And then you have the fall trees and the reflection of the fall trees. And the sky, there's a wispiness to it. So, and it's not overdone, it's not overly saturated. My one wish is that there was less of this sidewalk, even though it does give the emphasis to the curve. Sidewalks, especially this much of a sidewalk and this close up to the frame, are just not as visually pleasing as nature is. And it's good to give it as a frame, but I think I would give it less attention, maybe even bringing it up and over a little bit. Okay, a little Venice for us. This is a true slice. That's how I felt about it. It's a slice of Venice. And what a clever way to conceptualize Venice. You get the bridges and you get some beautiful bridges here. Very well exposed and focused. All of this is very nicely exposed. The water is presenting some challenges for me. The reflections in the water. And although it may have been really what was there, remember that I'm looking at the image as a piece of art, and is everything either supporting or detracting? And because this is so mysterious to me, I don't even know if it's a piece of a boat or what it is, but it just looks very odd, and it's kind of coming straight down. It's got a very strong line, so that's going to draw your eye. And the strong line is drawing my eye to something that that just looks odd, because it's probably, a reflection of something. I'm not really sure what it is. Could probably easily explained, but I'm looking at this as it is, and that's the one thing about this image. Otherwise, it's really very, very good, and I would give it a high score. Christmas on the Canal. So, and for the most part, you guys have really done a nice job with titles. Titles are important, especially when a judge sees them, or anybody. And if you're in an art show, people look at titles because people look at words. And this is just a simple, straightforward, very nice title. So you have a U shape, very nice geometry here around the canal, and then you have all the reflections all around that you can. So you've got layers here. It's very, very hard to take lit uh, uh, structures at night, because the tendency for the light is to get all smushy and kind of spread out and blur out and take a little bit away from the scene. And that's kind of what's happened in some of this area. The other thing that I would do right away is I think there's a dust spot here. I don't think that's on my computer. And I would get rid of that. And see how this sky picked up noise. I don't know if you can see the noise, but it's clear to me. Skies, green, blue will pick up noise, and you have to denoise it. You have to select it and denoise it so that you're not denoising the rest of it. Because whenever you denoise it makes the image a little bit softer. Chrysalis. I assume that means that there are some chrysalids in here. But what I see is a beautiful butterfly that may have just eclosed from a chrysalis. So it looks like a creative image to me because it has kind of these white stripes that could be a lacy curtain. I would have to guess, or slats of something. I'm not really sure what this is, and it looks like it's looking through a window, and there's all these little spots of bokeh, which are interesting. I think if the butterfly were framed by one of them, like perhaps in this section, it might have been more supportive to the actual subject, which is the butterfly. And the other thing is that the butterfly looks very, very brightly colored, beyond which I would expect most butterflies to look. So I would back off of the saturation on this. Cloudy sunrise. What a lovely partial starburst here that's coming all the way down through the waves and to the shoreline, and just inviting you right into the depth of the image. And then the pier also offers you some depth. There are some well, let me first start with this. The clouds are a huge part of this particular image. And because they are, I think it would be better if they complemented the water, the part below, because as it is right now, it almost feels like two scenes. Like the bottom is very, very sharp and the top is very, very fuzzy. And there's also some noise in it, but that could also be it's possible that that's the noise is just an artifact of having this a little bit larger on my screen. But there's too much of a difference to me, and you'll hear me talk about that again. To really reach excellence in an image, you have to look at the tonal contrast and the textural contrast. And is there one area that's one tone and texture and another area that's another tone and texture? It splits the image. There's also some blue coloring in the pier that needs to be addressed, that doesn't seem to match the sky. So I do like the composition very much and the idea. Colorful light bulb. Isn't it interesting how you could take something so simple, something so common, and make it so interesting? That's how I felt about this. I went, oh, first of all, I don't really look at a light bulb that closely typically. I can't really see the filaments and how it's arranged, because if it's on, you can't look directly at it. So this was a very cool opportunity for me. And second, the reflections from whatever this is, and it could be, you know, a design, a fabric, somebody was experimenting with oil, whatever it was. It's just lovely the way it's reflecting above, around, and through this light bulb. I think it's delightful. Daylily Delight. The flower itself is beautifully exposed. and focused. Just beautiful. You can really feel the sweet edges of it, the ruffled edges, the beautiful texture. The center is as beautifully focused and lit as the rest of the flower. It's just a pleasure to look at. I assume that a relatively long depth of field was used, aperture was used to get all of this close up, unless it was a long lens, and that would be a different, you might get a similar result. But what happens, the danger of doing that is then the background is just as focused and bright. And the background in this case is distracting me a bit. It's very bright, it's very strong, it's got lots of lines going every which way. And so that's the good and the good and the bad of working with depth of field. It can get you, or it can help you. Daytona dusk. I like the idea. I like the idea of taking a picture down the beach like this, because what you end up with is converging lines, and converging lines are always a pleasure to look at. And this has a destination too. As you go down the beach, you end up with this tall skyscraper. And so it has a building at the end. There is unfortunately some distortion in this image, and I'm not sure what, trying to guess at why and how is a fool's mission. But I can name a possibility: the equipment, the wind, maybe the window that it was taken through, if that was the case, or maybe it's just low resolution. Whatever it is, there's lots of distortion in here. Some of it is pixelation, some of it is just fuzziness and the noise in the sky. So the technical problems, and are what gotcha. This one's called Delicate Flower. I love all the different representations of flowers. It was a nice variety for me to look at. So I like the composition on the colors with an interesting background. The lighting was very nice because you got everything well lit. And then we have, a vignette around it, perhaps, or whatever that is. Actually, I think the picture ends here. Yeah, I think the picture ends here. Yeah, it does. So these sides are not part of the picture. The flower is the main subject, and the flower is not sharp. So that's the main issue here. I love your choices, your color choices, your asymmetry. It's this even the center has to be really sharp in this. There is a halo around the apple. So when I referred to halos, this would be an example. And sometimes that's caused by lighting. Sometimes it's caused by certain colors against certain other colors. Sometimes it's caused by different lighting on the subject than on the background. The other thing is that it's crooked. This table here, this table line does not line up. And it's very slight, but it's enough to throw my eye on. Delivery at Dawn. It's different. I've not seen something like this, and it looks like it was in Venice with these gondolas. And so it certainly is a different side of that beautiful area. So there's a story here, and the title helps to tell the story, which I appreciate, because I don't know. I might have guessed what it was, but I like the title explaining it. There's a lot of overlap here, which is unfortunate. I see a figure, and I'd love to see that figure better, but there's so many pilings and another boat behind. And I know that that's just the reality of pulling in like this and docking. But the overlap is just reduces my ability to enjoy it. The far trees down here, I'm not sure what happened here. It might just be that it wasn't a long enough focus. And everything at a great distance is uh, has an odd coloration, kind of odd chromatic aberration from a number of things, the distance, the lighting, etc. So as you can see, with all of these images, I'm going to give you what I like about them and why, and then maybe some suggestions for how I think they can be improved, of course, and it would be my opinion with my background, my experience. This one is called Eruption Reflections. Oh, what a great title. And right away, you know, you're looking for this great subject, lava, you know, and a volcanic eruption. But along with the eruption subject, he gives the reflection, the word reflection, which is good, because then you're not expecting to see lava flowing. Then you're expecting something else, and you never want to be disappointed by a title. This image has wonderful layers. You see the front branches and trees lit up by this sky. You see a diagonal profile here, and then the main source perhaps of the eruption, a little bit of negative space, sort of. And then you see this wonderful reflection, which is just a gorgeous color. And then, of course, you see the galaxy, I assume is the Milky Way. It's really quite a dramatic image. And I even like these branches that other people might say, oh, they're distracting. And I just think that they're another layer that makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense. A ghost ship. Yes. It's hard to get good images in mist and fog. Don't anybody tell you it isn't, because it is. What's nice about this one is that you can see that it is a ship, and you can see it's lying on its side and abandoned or whatever. But you can see there's a story there. And then the foreground has this interesting red chair. I would very much have liked it if this chair were facing the ship. It's facing out of the frame, and because there's only two objects in the frame, it has a lot of power, and it's bringing me out of the frame rather than bringing me into the ship. So that's the only disadvantage I see to that positioning. I think I would have allowed a little bit more space at the bottom too for the legs of the chair. And so just by happenstance, we have two kind of misty, foggy pictures in a row. This one is called Ghosted. I like this very much. It is very different than anything I've seen before. The water is very soft, probably from long exposure. There's an egret in the mist, and the egret is distorted to some extent by the mist. And so that seems very believable to me. The rocks provide wonderful contrast in texture and light, because it's dark and everything else is light, as well as different shapes. And the shapes are wonderful shapes, wonderful geometries, curves, diagonals, and everything kind of brings you into the scene and gives this egret a stage. Lovely. So, Harry Potter Express. Very good depth of field, very long depth of field, closed down aperture to get the whole train, which is cool. Featuring the engine, of course. I look for stories, and I'm what I see is a very good representation of the Harry Potter train at a diagonal, which makes it more interesting with the smoke around it. I'm just not sure I see the photographer in this image. And that's often what I look for, is something about the photographer. Horse Whisperers. It's a great title. Beautiful faces, beautiful texture and light on the horses, great detail. The soft background is nice. You managed to get light on both of the faces. I love the contrasting shadows. Light and shadows, highlights and shadows are often beautiful in an image. I think it's very well done. There is a halo on this horse's underside of the neck. And this perhaps comes from the fact that he's so dark and the background is so light. And so this needs to be rectified. And so I recommend, before preparing a picture for anything, is to blow it up on your screen, not too much because you don't want to make it unrealistic, and take a very, very good look at the whole part, and you might be able to catch something like this. Keyhole, aptly named. It's a very tough image to make because you have drastic differences in light. You've got a dark, dark cave and the bright, bright, sunny light shining on this part of the structure. And I really long to see some of the detail in here rather than just having a lot of blackness. I see some of it and it just says, oh, I just want to see more. I think a bracketed exposure with at least 3 shots and then working with it in Photoshop or Lightroom, and being brought together, you'd be able to get a little bit less brightness here and a little bit more light here with some detail. And I think it would make a more effective image. You've got to watch for those dramatic differences between light and dark. Lovely lorikeet. The eye is so wonderful, and the beak and the head around the eye, really mesmerizing here. And it looks very believable, this level of saturation. I would recommend a wider depth of field this close up, because what happens is a great deal of the image, a great deal of the body of the lorikeet is blurred. It's soft to the point where it's blurred. And, you know, my eye wants to see the detail in most of this. Maybe not all of it fading out as it goes back, but at least a little bit more. Interesting capture. Interesting study of motion. And you ended up with a really nice orange blue color scheme. The orange, blue, and the blue of the sky, and then coming through in between the cars with a bright red as a contrast. The colors really work well here. On another image where what you need to straighten out, in my opinion, is this tree and this road and this car, so that it's not tilted this way, but it's up this way. And that would be fine for the train. It would work for the train. So before making these suggestions, I usually take the image, you know, into Photoshop and just apply the straightening tool to see if it's going to compromise the image in any way. And sometimes it does, because it'll cut off some of your image, but it would work here. And that's what I would recommend for this one. Mysterious Capri. Talk about layers. We have many layers. We have a close-up trellis here, and then we've got a forested area of greenery and some color in here. And then we have a little village here, and then the mountain edge of the village. Behind that, there's fog. Down below, there's more city. Then there's another mountain. Then there's the sky. And it's just amazing with the layers. Very, very interesting. It is crooked. And I know that because I look over here and I see that the beach line doesn't look right, doesn't look quite right. And it would not hurt this image to be straightened. I think that the maker may have gone off of this, but even if you look at this trellis, it's a little bit tilted towards the right and could use a little straightening towards the left. But the trellis is not more important than this here. Let's see, this is Mysterious Capri. The only other thing is it's a little hard to find a focus here, a subject focus. I wonder if compromising some of this layering, maybe bringing it in, cropping it here a little bit, you would still get a tree line, a village, mountain, you'd still get lots of, and you'd get this beach too here. So, and then you'd still get the bird, which I think is another interesting feature. A perched barn owl. The portrait of this owl is lovely. This is beautifully exposed and excellent clarity. You can feel the softness of some of these textures, and then you can feel the sharpness and crispness of some of the other. It's just it's really a study in what this bird looks like. And then you have the foot, the claws, the perch. It's just it's amazing. The face is gorgeous. The diagonal of the body is good. I would have given, and I recommend giving more space for this guy. He's kind of center place, and it doesn't work because he's at a slant, and the main feature of him is the head, and he's looking toward this direction. So that's just my thought for you to consider. The thing that really is problematic with anything in nature is that the greens of nature are sometimes very yellow and very bright. And what's happening here is, instead of this green soft background supporting the owl, it's taking some attention away from the owl. And so the best way to deal with that is to select for the background and reduce the saturation. Take out some of the yellow, take out some of the color, because this is the star attraction, and this is a perfectly exposed and focused portrait. So here's another one that's perfect timing, right? Getting an airplane in front of the eclipse. I mean, oh my goodness. I had mixed feelings about this because I thought it was an amazing catch. And you even have what looks possibly to be some of the disturbed air from the plane. What sometimes happens, and it'll happen when you get flying geese or sandhill cranes or flamingos flying across a sun, is that you'll get this funny edging around the object. And I don't know how to avoid it, to tell you the truth. Maybe someone does. I was able to just for some reason avoid it at one point, but I'm not sure why. But I would actually go in and clean this up a little bit, because it's natural, but it's visually it's a little disturbing. It's a fuzzy red edge here. So this I assume is just an anomaly because I saw it in other pictures of the eclipse, and I would leave that. That's just my opinion on this, and you might get different opinions.
Yeah, I get that on Amazon all the time. When I get low, I fill up on this one. Does that,
So this one's called Prismatic, and which is very cool. There are colors reminiscent of the prism that can show all of the colors of the rainbow. I like the idea of it. I think the idea would have held more strongly if the whole length of it was crystal sharp. And I don't always say that. I don't always feel that. I think a soft background, a fading, away is often flattering. But with this subject, because that's the subject, this walkway, and seeing how long this walkway was, I think you need to have it all crystal clear all the way through. So different rules, apply to different circumstances. The only other thing is that even with how unusual this is, I'd want to capture something interesting going on around it, or people, I don't know, something interesting, an animal on it, or other than just tourists. But I think it's a good idea. And I like the fact that it curves. So that was very cooperative of the artist who did it. Protect the tulips, protect the tulips. I do like the title. This one to me does look creative, and I understand that it's not, that there were lines in it that somehow held these umbrellas up there. It just it's hard for me to see it as a senseful picture. I do like the umbrellas against the blue sky, but what I'm seeing is two pictures again. I'm not seeing how this really comes together. And I would like to see these flowers, which are half of the picture really in subject, sharp, rather than kind of little red blobs. And I think it might have been that these flowers were taken far away. It seems to me that they were farther away. So there's some things about it that don't quite come together for me, and I'm always looking for cohesiveness, and that would be a problem here. Okay, Rose of Sharon certainly is a nice flower. You've got the bud here, and I think that's a good idea, getting the flower and the bud, and then another bud that's even greener. The flower is very soft. That's what I see. In other words, I don't see the sharpness that needs to be in the main subject, and I see more blur, and I'd like to see the flower a little bit better. But I do like the simple color combination. That I'm sure that's what attracted your eye. It's got the green, red green or pink green color combination, which is a wonderful complementary color scheme of opposing colors on the color wheel. See the pyramid, yes. And once again, the starburst, which is fantastic on the pyramid. Wow, and I'm sure the person had to wait for this. I would like to see the pyramid sharp, because it is a big part of the picture and the main subject. And so that's what I would long for on this one. Snow in August on Rainier. Wow. So this part of the picture is absolutely stunning, with the sky and the mountain, and look at how beautifully it's sharp. It is the faded blue purple because it is in the distance, is in a great distance. There's this wonderful leading line here. And then you have this hill. And I do like diagonals, but this particular diagonal is full of a very dark green that's very oppositional to the rest of the picture. Not that you can't have contrast. I like contrast, but this is too contrasting. This is dark green, and these are soft blues. And it once again, rather than being cohesive together as one picture, it looks like two separate pictures. So just a huge difference in the foreground. So we have the waves, we have her arms spread out. This person looks familiar. That picture, I remember, was actually better than this picture, and maybe you didn't have it at the time to enter, but her face is too soft and not lit at all, and it's blurred. The rest of it is just wonderfully sharp. So next time enter that other picture. The drama of Lemaire. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but this is quite stunning. It's a beautiful capture, exposure, the depth of it, and lots of layers. I really enjoy this picture. Good composition, nice balance. Of course, the reflection is so just wonderful, and right in the middle of the reflection is this perfect little kind of mid-picture piece of ice, I guess. And I loved the picture, and then I got a sight of this area of the picture. Gotta fix this. Gotta fix this. There's water spots here. There's noise in here, and all in here. It's this whole section, the sky and part of the clouds. Otherwise, I hate to break it to you, but this would have been a winner. This has such incredible potential, but those technical issues will be the downfall of some of the pictures. Just give it another chance somewhere else. Trail riders. It certainly gives a great idea of the country out here, doesn't it? My goodness. I mean, my goodness. You have hills and some occasional shrubbery, and then you have some sculpted structures, more from the wind, probably, and erosion. Then you have these distant hills, which are appropriately faded, and then you have a pretty nice sky. I understand the draw to taking the pictures of the people on the horses with all of this. Unfortunately, the horses and the people are kind of walking out of the scene, and they're not really, they don't feel part of it. They don't feel part of the environment. Maybe if they were walking into the scene even, or coming up this road here, or maybe soon, maybe a few minutes sooner. There's a lot in this scene, and I think that they, instead of helping, the idea was a good one, but instead of helping, I think they're pulling me out rather than pulling me in. Okay, we just have a couple more in color, and I don't know if I need to be moving a lot faster. I think so. I think I need to be moving a lot faster. We're going to be here all night. No, Liz?
I don't know, it's 6:23, so
Yeah.
a little bit faster, yeah, maybe.
Okay, so Tropical Drink, great title. The lizard is lapping at this. It is it's cool. It's a very cool story. I love it. And the lizard is pretty well exposed, except maybe soft tail, but the lizard, which is the subject. Now, the thing is that this plant is really taking dominance, and the shiny spots on it are distracting. These reflective spots where we've lost texture. So I understand that you wanted to get the tail in. I understand these are all photographic dilemmas and we have to make choices and make decisions, but that's what distracts from primarily. You've got a beautiful red and green color scheme here. But I don't know, it might even be worth it to cut off some of the lizard and just get a portion of the plant. Although you do have some whited out areas up here too, because of the brightness. Oh, is my forest. The owl face is very sharp. It's nice to look at the beak and the eyes with the highlights in the eyes. You've got a beautiful curve of the wings, soft supporting background. You do have some motion blur on the tips, which might have been okay, but what I'm seeing here is under the wings, it's very noisy. And my guess is that it was darker and it was lightened. And when that happens, you're going to get noise. And so what would be good is even to denoise under the wings, but even here is a little bit of noise, but I don't know if you can see it, but it's definitely noisy under here. And then you have the wings do blend in the background a little bit here, so so this is the successful part here, and the background is really pretty. Getting the right light or using the right techniques in Photoshop would really help. Okay, When Life Gives You Lemons, great title, great arrangement. It's got wonderful patterns, you know, the lemons, and then you've got a lemon here on its side and a lemon standing straight up, which is brilliant. I like that very much. It helps with the weight of the image because the weight tends over here, but this one kind of gives it weight down here. It's beautifully aligned in this old window, and yet the window is a little off center so that you don't get this sense of perfectly centered. You get this wonderful different alignment. I think it's great. I love the curving line. Nice job. Okay, so we go to the awards and we start with the honorable mentions. Chorus of Trees, beautiful. And I remember how much I love the way that this person cut this out of this scene. Couldn't resist. I think this is amazing, sharp and interesting and novel. Yeah, you heard what I just said about this one. At least it got an honorable mention. Third place. Love this. It's just beautiful. And I gave this second place because I think it was just a very ethereal, successful ghosting of this egret, and everything around it supports it. And this was the first place winner. So did I go too fast through those awards, Liz? Is that okay?
It's good. Like I said, yeah, faster.
okay, all right,
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so sorry. Congratulations to the winners. You beat out a tough field here. So monochrome. With monochrome, what do we look for? We don't have color now, so we look for grays, right? Interesting grays. We look for contrast. We look for subtle shadings of grays. We look for texture, and we look at the light. We look at the light because light really shines. Different kinds of light shines in monochrome. And so this is our first one. Once again, kind of randomly ordered here, sequenced as time goes by. I really like these branches up here that are sharp and they're framing the image. I just wanted to say that right off because that was the first thing that delighted me. I like the strong verticals here of this clock and mirrored by the lamps in back. We talked about balance. This one is one I feel doesn't have good balance. Here, I'm looking over here automatically for the rest of the image, and what I see is this car here, and I want the maker to take a look at that car again. It looks distorted, and I don't know why. It could be optical illusion, it could be just a visual anomaly, but since I'm looking for balance, I saw it very clearly in it, and it wasn't a good element to have in the image. Weathering elements, the composition is very, very well done. You've got the ramshackle structure on the left, and it's balanced by this ground. Perfect balance, even though this is way to the left. You've got the front layers of grass, which are sharp, so they're enjoyable. So now you've got layers, darker layer. You've got the sweeping, shorter grass, the building, the sky. It's just got so much. And the layers, you have soft texture and hard texture, and it's a really nice balance of all of those things. October morning, Mount Whitney. What I really love in this image are the shadows. I love the shadows everywhere, that shadows are created in this, is the beauty in this. So of course, when you have shadows, you often have light. And what I would like to see is some of this light dimmed down, especially this light. This is a very, very bright. It dominates the image. It kind of overwhelms the image, and you're losing texture in here and interest. So this was a wonderful image, which I think just suffered a tiny bit because of this bright, bright light that landed on some of these peaks. Of course, the dynamics of it, the motion, the shapes are wonderful in it. Satan selfie, very amusing. Title goes well. I like the leading lines. You did well with you've got the wall that this Satan is on. You've got the street going down, and they're coming into the picture like this. You've got the buildings on this side, and then on this side, and then you've got the what could be an old aqueduct in the back. I just wish it weren't cutting through his head. Oh, well, I mean, that happened. I would definitely do something with this white building because it's too white. It's totally not important to the scene other than filling space. And because it's so white, brighter than anything, it draws the eye to it. So that would be my only constructive comment on it. You can check out anytime you like. But so this is a great play on the song. I like the angle this was taken at. It certainly adds interest to the scene, and it makes the car very prominent. It also features the beautiful front of the car, which is the most beautiful part of the car, in my opinion. It's very well exposed for nightlight. You get reflections, you get some shines, and there's a lot of different lighting happening here, but I think the car light is handled very well. There's some barely visible business going here, and then the big white screen, which is really unfortunate. And I don't know if maybe cropping it down might remove that, but I do like the setting that the whole thing is in, and some of this artwork, which is also reflected over here and balances the picture. We have a dream. The child is charming. Oh my goodness. Even with this very, very straight look that he has, it adds gravitas. It sets a mood that this is serious business. He's very sharply focused, which is lovely. Unfortunately, she is less so, and because she is prominent in the photo as a support to him, I feel like she should probably have been a little sharper. The backdrop is, I think, nice. It's bokeh, it's lighter, and there you have it. Before the mast, you capture the range of grays from blacks to whites very well. That alone is of interest and doesn't have to be done in every image, but isn't it lovely when it's done from blacks to whites? You've got all different levels of gray. The lines converging up are very interesting. There is an unfortunate halo along this rope here. This white line here that grabs my eye, and that could be fixed in post. Angels appear. I like the fact that there's an odd number of planes zooming over an odd number of whatever these structures are here. And the trails, oh, I just noticed that this trail is missing. I just noticed that. It's not a problem, but these trails are a nice soft contrast to this hard structure. So you've got some nice play and texture in this, and some strong lines and then some soft lines. What I would suggest is, because these airplanes are so important to the story, that I would want to see them a little bit more clearly, and that might mean trying to bring out some of the darks. Catch I Can. It sounds very Yoda-ish. The framing here provided by the rods is just brilliant. I've never seen this before. This is very unique. And the lines of the rods mirror the lines of the shrimp boat, or whatever type of boating this is. They frame the vessel and they draw attention to it. And the blacks and whites and light colors are handled very, very well. The exposure is just right. The bicycle. I actually wish this was not called the bicycle, because the bicycle is it's kind of covered with plastic. And to me, this guy, whatever this is, this poster, the painting, I think that needs to be included in the title somehow. The bicycle provides a leading line right up to it, but the whole thing does beg a little explanation. I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. And what is the building? What is this? It could be like anime, cartooning. I think the blacks and white are exposed to very, very well in here. I mean, you've got some very black blacks, you've got some white whites, and you've got some grays in between. It's very nicely done. I just think that there are too many disparate elements that are kind of grouped together in it. Tiny Titans. So I love the fact that there's this interaction between these two. The unfortunate thing is that they're very noisy, and I imagine it's because the light was coming from the back and creating that beautiful backlighting through the wings, but it was not casting any light on the birds' bodies. And so if you lightened up the image, then you just get noise in their bodies. And if you denoise, you really run the risk of making them softer and blurred. So backlighting can be dangerous. The bokeh in the background is also really lovely. Follow me. So the leader of this group has this great eye. His forelocks are a little dark. And since he's the prominent member, that's kind of what I want to see. Let's see, the high contrast of the day makes the darks very dark and the brights very bright. And the animals behind him are difficult. This is where overlapping animals. I mean, I think the title helped to forgive some of that. And yet at the same time, there isn't this issue that I see him sort of, but he's dark, and then I see these figures in back that are kind of being overshadowed by his massive body. Voodoo stare. Her eyes are mesmerizing and further enhanced by the makeup all around her eyes. It's just And you've captured the eyes with some beautiful lighting in them. Very, very nice. I think there could have been a little bit more light on this subject, or maybe it's difficult because you've got some brights and some darks. And so it's a hard thing to, expose these shadows and this dark jacket or whatever it is, without overexposing the braids. So either bracketing or slightly, or maybe a reflector on her or something to help that would have helped. On a Wing and a Prayer. There's a lot of grain in this image. It's not even just noise, it's really a lot of texture. And I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. But what's happening as I'm looking at it, I feel like there's a mismatch between the spirit of the thing on A Wing and a Prayer, the beauty of the flight of the bird, and the texture, which is harsh. So it's just it's like unconvincing to me. Beautiful idea. And also it looks very creative. So try it in another way, because I think the idea is lovely. Ghost ships, once again, hard to photograph mist. In this case, we get some noise in here, some grain. I think this would have been more effective if we could see a little, maybe the midtones come up a little bit in the ships. And of course, when you have patterns like this, what's always best is to have something that really stands out. This one tries to stand out, but it doesn't have enough of the richer darks in it to really, really stand out. So I think you've done a really good job with the situation. But as I said, it's difficult to photograph mist and fog, and maybe waiting a little bit longer to get a little bit more clarity might have been a good idea. So very straightforward portrait of an engine, boldly positioned, well exposed. I am looking for more story here. I'm looking for, what is this about? Is it called the Dauntless? What did it ever do? Is it still functioning? Perhaps an engineer climbing up on the steps would help me to, to have a little bit more meaning attached to it. Maybe some weather, even maybe some rain, but a little bit more to the story. Otherwise, it's a nice portrait of an engine. Night lights. So in this, we have the sheen of the water really draws me in. This is, I love this part of the picture. It's important enough that I feel like it should have been more sharp. That this should have been more sharp, because it's a big part of the picture, and it's really, really lovely. It shows off the texture and the movement and the waves so nicely. There are very highly contrasting tones in this. You have the very, very bright lights of the buildings, and you have the darker beach and the darker waves. And it feels, once again, like two pictures, rather than something that feels a little bit more cohesive. And the sky is not that interesting, so maybe even taking it down a bit. But for the most appealing part of the picture to be blurry, I would recommend that if you do this again, and it's a good idea because it's got these beautiful converging lines and diagonals, that this is sharp. This is all sharp. Or it's slow motion photography. Well, it could have been, but it doesn't work in this case, because this is all sharp, very, very sharp to me. Cowboys of Palo Alto, wonderful character study here. You can see all the marks, you can see all the pores on his face, the reflections in his eyes, his mustache and beard are delightfully wiry. And then he has some softer hair around it. It's a very, very well done monochromatic image with this wonderful backdrop of the black cap. It's a little too close to me. I'd want to push him back a little bit in the scene. But that would just be me. Otherwise, I think it's really beautifully done. Biographical footnotes. I love the title. The angle is very nice. You're looking down and you know, you feel like you're walking up in this. I like that. I like the fact that you've got some foam and sea in here, giving the appropriate context, the froth, and it also gives different texture. I think your range of tones is very well done. I think as a on the whole, this club did a great job with monochrome, exposing it really well. Human footprints, not so interesting unless there's something like a shell or a crab or I don't know, something kind of breaking it. So I guess it's the subject itself that was, but I think it's extremely well exposed. So it certainly, I mean, if you can look past the blur, which is the main problem in this picture, honestly, it is such an idyllic little scene with this branch covered with snow and the fawn below it. The main problem here is that it is blurred. It's not sharp at all. And that may have been, you know, because of the weather or the camera used or whatever it is. But it had a nice feel until I took a look at that problem. Through the fog. I love it how you're playing with fog and windows and all of it. That's great. Just keep doing that. So I don't know for sure what this is, but it looks like, you know, I'm looking at something with fog or window or whatever, and it says through the fog, so I have to believe that there's some fog involved, and it really forgives the fact that he's kind of soft. I don't mind that at all. I love this. The background that he's in is perfect for his head. I don't know if you caught that intentionally, but that was a good idea to get him framed like this. This is distracting. I don't know what it is. When somebody looking at your image doesn't know what it is and it takes a lot of the image, that's a problem potentially. So I guess you could take out some of it, but the biggest problem is this here, and that's over his shoulder. So I'm not sure what to tell you to do with this other than maybe darken it. Being very careful when you do that you don't, darkening can sometimes make it sharper and give it some anomalies, and you don't want to do that. Now, this is unusual. I don't usually, frankly, and there might be other judges who feel the same way, give statuary high marks. In this case, it was done just right, and it caught me by surprise, caught myself by surprise. I like the placement of the statue in the image. You know, against this huge mausoleum type of thing with other people's graves. Some of them are in full view, so I know what's going on, and then fading down into the darkness, which is nice. There's nice sunlight on the back of the statue, which is really interesting. You need the brightest part in something like this on the main subject. You need to have a main subject, and this is the main subject. It's also glinting off the flowers, which I like because it brings the flowers into the scene. Let's see, what else was I saying? Graininess of the background, of course, the graininess of everything is a wonderful contrast to the smooth marble of the statue. So I like this image. Okay. Oops. Old Soul. All right, this looks like an infrared, whatever. It's beautifully toned. So you have the dark tree. And then you have the bright resurrection fern or whatever material this is all over the tree. And it's framed by these two bushes in the front. Let's see also. And then you have it soaring out of the frame, but there's so much of it to enjoy that it's okay that it's soaring out of the frame. This image feels tilted to the left. So it's just a very slight tilt, but when you're talking about a strong tree, you want to make sure it's absolutely perfectly presented. Very, very slight adjustment to the right, and that would be better, in my opinion. Hiding in the reflections. This looks like the bean in Chicago, but that's just a guess. What a unique version it is, if it is that. Maybe it was taken with a fisheye, I don't know, but what a wonderfully unique rendition of this familiar scene. I love it. There's one person here, one person here, symmetry. There's a circle of people under here and one standing out there. Symmetrical asymmetry or balance. I just love the whole image. I think it's very well done. And it's the most unique rendition of something that looks familiar. Pillars of strength. Love the reflections here, right? This is, to me, the most beautiful part of the scene. Just beautiful. Strong, 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 light and dark, beautifully exposed. The brighter area in here. The weakness in the image to me is the real trees. They are in such a prominent location. Everything's pointing to them, the converging lines. They're in the center of the image. They're against a white background. They need to be tack sharp. That's just my expectation, that it would be better if they were sharp. Fresh kicks only. I think it's clever. I like the weight on this side, and yet because the diagonal's coming from the right, you're feeling a little bit more balanced by this piece here. I think the white sneakers are just overwhelming the picture. And they may indeed have been that white and compared to the rest of the picture. But I would, it's just so startling, it almost looks unreal. And I'd want something convincing. I mean, this is a true story, and I want to see it represented as a truism. So I think these are just too bright. But I like the idea. I think it could be done again, only differently, slightly differently. Lonely Surfer. I like this very much. This is clear who the subject is. There's wonderful light coming and creating rim lighting along the surfboard and along parts of the gentleman's feet. He's framed by other walkers here. There's only a little bit of overlap on whatever this was down here. The scene is primarily grays, giving that mood, that gray mood. And yet he's, I think, beautifully darkened. So I like the combination of the whites and the darks in this. And for honors, I did give this one an honorable mention. I really think if you're gonna take statuary, you've got a harder task than normal because it's not real people, but this was done very, very well for the reasons that I had mentioned before. Step back, Jack, and it might have gotten higher, but wow. I love the eyes. I mean, the eyes, talk about the eyes as a doorway to the soul, in contrast to the rest of him. It's just a great picture. Straighten it out just a little bit. And it's even better, but it gets an honor. And this one, which I really thought was amazing. Different. So third place was Our Lonely Surfer. Just wonderful. I love his being off center and the waves coming into the right, balancing it out. Second place was the interpretation of the bean. Even though there's lots in this, it's beautifully organized. It just works. And first place is Weathering the Elements, a fantastic image. This is a classic, perfect monochrome image. It's got everything you would ever want in a monochrome image. Beautifully balanced, negative space, layers. It's just nice job. Okay. I don't know, you may have to walk around a little bit. I'm already dancing and walking around, so I don't have to walk around anymore. But it's already 7 and I'm only at people, and I am gonna hurry myself up. I didn't realize that I was lagging so much. I'm so sorry. Hope you're not falling asleep. Okay, so a different voice. They look like protesters, or maybe they're welcoming the Pope. I don't know. Anyway, a bunch of people, difficult shot, always a difficult shot. If this girl were in focus and looking more at the camera, I think it might have been a more successful shot. But as it is, she's very soft, and she needs to be sharp, because she's too close to the action, and she's a different one. So she needs to be sharp. A Mother's Love. This one's soft. It has a soft finish. I think the soft finish works here. Might be a touch too soft for some people, but I think it's good. The lighting on the half lighting on the child's face is gorgeous. It's dark and light, and then these wonderful, just enough lighting on the mother to bring her in as the doting mother. And it makes sense to me. She's the supporting figure. This a light on the child's chest, and it comes up to the cheek too, but especially this light in the child's chest is just too bright. So watch that in portraits. But otherwise, a very meaningful, lovely image. Belting it out. This is a riot. You use great shutter speed because you got this. You got this image. I would crop it. So I think there's, and unfortunately, this line is going through her head. I would take out some of this brick. You don't really need it. And maybe even, just bring it in a little bit closer, because it feels like a portrait to me, even though she's doing something really cool. Good for her. That's what I do. I go out and sing open mics. Brothers in Arms. This is a very moving portrayal, this man. I like the fact that you caught the context. The colors are pretty compatible, red, green. And the leading lines are nice. He's looking down there. The lines are bringing your eyes down there. The finish on this, the treatment, I don't know what it was about it, but it makes it feel a little unreal, a little bit, I'm not really sure what else to say than unreal. And to me, since this is such a moving scene, I feel like it should be raw. It should be closer to raw and less processed. I'm not sure I can say that any other way, but that's how I felt when I saw it. An exciting moment is captured here with the waves, right? Look at this wave. It's amazing. I like the position and everything. I wish that I could see a little bit more of his face. And this big white blob on the left is unfortunate, because that's an important spot in an image. It brings you into an image, or it blocks your view. So. Corporal O'Reilly. This is a good portrait of the corporal. Got light on half of his face, even though, it's from the side back. It feels a little cut off to me. I wish I could see a little bit more of his chest. It just feels like a floating head. I like the context with the cannons and everything in the background. I wouldn't have as much sky, I don't think. I also like the fly on him. Got a little fly on his hat. So, this is an example of really superb lighting. Wonderful lighting. His eyes are beautiful. His face is lit. And this beautiful bokeh in the background. You can see the texture of the smoke. There's also a frame created by the vehicle around his face. So everything points to this locale. There's nothing in this image that is extra. This is unfortunate that it's so bright. I forgive it, because this is street photography is what this is. And everything else about this was so wonderful. Deep in thought. The light touch on this image is gorgeous. You can see these gorgeous eyes. I bet they're blue. So it's a light touch. It's a little soft, and it's the grays are very near each other on Ansel Adams continuum. But I think that's really appropriate. This spot here needs to be fixed, and it could have been caused by anything. But it's distracting. It's kind of an aberration on his arm. It could be repaired. It's not an easy job, but just selecting, closer into the arm and maybe cloning carefully, you could get rid of it, and then it would be even more wonderful than it is. Nancy Flynn, sorry, I'm cheating on your names. I don't mean to do that. Okay, Down on 10th Street. I love the double meaning in the title, Down on 10th, just amazing. To me, it represents the haves and the have-nots. I like the geometry of the image, lines and shapes in different directions. The people offer some stability here, and they make it a meaningful image. The only drawback with this image is the man below is really dark. And I know that that's because he's in the dark, but I think I might, try to work with that so that he could be really a little bit more visible. But it's a great image. Loneliness of Dementia. This picture captures a great story and an emotion, to be sure. It makes me sad with the title too. There's a technical issue in this image that creates problems. It may have occurred when you were sharpening. I don't know. That's just a guess and a caution about sharpening. But you can see this crackly, glittery whites in here, and that's not a desirable in a monochrome. So it's the highlights that are shimmering and sparkling. Gonna just be careful with those sliders. This should, oh, it is called Eye on You. Oh, good. I had it as Eyes on You. Yeah, I love the name. Very attractive young man with a beautiful eye. It's a very close-up shot with just the main features in focus. I'm not in love with the fact that this is very soft here, that his ears are very soft here. I think I might have wanted a little bit more definition. But apart from the fact that his face is beautiful and it's a gorgeous shot, there's a green halo all around this image, and that could have come from a green background that it might have been in, and that needs to be addressed. Fix that up, and then give that as a gift to the young man's mother. There's something about this lady's face that feels so odd to me. Her skin looks rubbery. Now, I'm going to assume it's just the way her skin is weathered, because I can't, it feels like it could have been done in post-processing, but I have to assume that it just weathered that way. But it is odd. I love her expression. The cigar is perfect. I love the lines in the background, even though they're slanted. This is street photography. You have a little bit more liberal enforcement of certain things. Because it makes her lean forward, you know. So, and her eyes are very ancient, very interesting. I would give this a different title. I think these guys look happy. I don't think they look like they're having hard times. They look like a couple of guys waiting for their friend to come along or looking at a beautiful woman. I mean, they just look like life is okay. You know, life is okay. I think the exposure is fantastic. You're exposing for dark skin and lighter skin. And I love its simplicity and spacing where they're looking off, and you've left a lot of room. With birds, you probably don't need that much room, but with these guys, somehow it really, really works. Negative space is the balancing agent here. It's cool. I like it. Have I got something for you? A humorous capture here with a very complex background. I don't really understand why she has a mask on. And usually, you know, I would give pictures of people without masks, you know, higher marks because I can relate to them. I can look into their eyes. Even if I could see more of her eye, it would be better, you know, rather than seeing the mask, seeing the eyes through the mask, I think would be really cool. That would be a really, really cool story. I see ice cream. The child in this image is captured so beautifully. Look at this. Look at the complexion. Look at the beautiful color. His hand is a little soft here. I like him framed between these two people. I would like to, because he's looking at this person, because of that, I would like to see this person a little bit better. And you'd have to use a different aperture because she's blurred in this. But he's looking at her and responding to her. And I feel like that needs to be part of the picture. And this oddness in the background is a problem. It just it could have happened very naturally because of the colors. But you know, when you see something like that, it's kind of, I don't know what that is. It's just a streak of orange that's grabbing my eye. I wonder if cropping it to here, you know, would help that. Because he's not really, this other boy is not really critical to the picture. I'm Here for You. Very good title, positioning of the characters. It's a good exposure, the blacks, the nice blacks, the whites, they're all, look at how beautifully you did this, just beautiful. You got all the everything perfectly exposed. It's a very tender moment. It's a sweet image. Just another day. I wish that I could see why she's making that face, because it's like she's making me feel bored. So I'm not really sure what the story is, just that she's making this face. I'm looking for a little bit more of a story here, especially in people photography. Rain Dance. The arching splash is the hero of this story. And this is absolutely phenomenal. How many times did she have to kick her leg up to get that? But she did it, and it's right connected to her foot. So this is what you call cohesion. This is really cohesive. And the background is nicely soft and yet gives context that she's, you know, at the beach with the cottages. Beautifully balanced photo. And here she is indeed leaning to the left, but there's enough of an interest on the right. And the connection is there. Just a really fine image. I like the angle you took this at, so that I could enjoy some of his work. And then here he is working at it. I like this. This is nice. I don't mind that he's, you know, kind of facing out of the frame. He's actually facing another piece of work. He's hunched over his work. The textures are wonderful, and there is a nice story here. Look at me jumping. You've caught the action of parts of his body really well. Look at his feet and his shorts and this hand here. And you get up to the face and it's not, it's very soft. This area is very soft and was really shed. This is what happens in this high intensity sun, is that you get these dark areas and these bright areas. But the dark areas in this case are problematic because his skin looks a bit splotchy, kind of mottled. So you need a little bit more light on that face, maybe a quick look up and a little bit faster shutter speed. Whoop, sorry, I'm gonna do this one. Okay, mirror on the scene. I like the colors in this. The gold and blue are just gorgeous, and that's really predominantly gold and blue. It's I don't really understand the image. I think that this to me was my favorite part of it, with her face, and it's hidden and not lit because it's hidden by the hair. It to me it works better as a creative image, because it's set up that way to be clever, and there's a lot of bright spots in here. So I liked it as a clever creative image. I would want a little bit more light on her face though. Nailed it. It's a very exciting image. It's done exceptionally well, and I've done a lot of rock band photography, and I know how incredibly hard it is to get something that's this cohesive. I mean, there she is as the star of the show, and she's rocking it out, and then there's her drummer behind her, and yes, there's a lot of sparkly bokeh, but I think it just adds excitement to the scene, and the fact is that she's sparkling as well too, with the gold, and the colors are very, very harmonious. It's a complementary kind of a blue orange, blue yellow color scheme. Great capture. Sorry, I didn't show the name long enough. Keep doing that. Maybe I'll just show the name. Okay, so number 12, which is kind of a cute name. I like the colors and line in this image very much. The texture is very appealing. I'm not sure why the man's pushing a dolly or hand truck along. I imagine he just had moved something or is going to move something. Maybe something in the title could tell me why he's doing that. Maybe a pile of stuff over here would show me, in other words, a little bit, flesh out the story a little bit more for people photography. And it would have a little bit more nuance and complexity to it. Perfecting the jump. I like the concentration and sweat on this guy's face. It's glistening on his chest. The touch of light around his eyes, helpful to be able to read his expression. And he's got some interesting, well, I don't know if this is a halo or rim lighting, but he's got some interesting rim lighting on his leg. So there's some things in this that are cool. I definitely love the pose. I love his expression. Unfortunately, his face is very soft, and that's what you should focus on, is his face. Of course, I know this must have been like a incredible catch, and you don't have time to be thinking about, where you're shooting, but that's what you need. And otherwise, it is a fun picture to show. Ready? The concentration on their faces is the story, and they're all looking the same way except for this one guy who looks like he might be the guy yelling ready. Diagonal lineup. You know what I even like about this picture? It's slanted back. In street photography, sometimes, you do that on purpose, street photographers will do that on purpose, or forward or tilt it. It's like, there's a little trepidation added to the scene by that little slant. I like that. I wish this guy wasn't right in back of this guy. Boy, that would have been perfect, huh? But life is hard to engineer. I think it's one of the better reenactment pictures I've ever seen. Rising above, somehow, miraculously, you caught the effort, the sweat, the propelling body, the distorted face in pretty darn good light. The hair is caught well. It's got sparkles on it and rim lighting. It's a very interesting shot. I would think that this would be a really good shot for a sports magazine. The face is a little soft, yes, but it almost, the distortion of it really gives you a feeling of great effort. I like this very much. Simply happy. Good idea to open up your shutter, capturing the dark skin of this child just beautifully. Unfortunately, this happened. That happens. The background is nice. The head is between these two huts, which is nice. Beautiful smile. Good context. Interesting. Simply happy. She's happy to have her picture taken. Okay. All right, let's see. People. Where's my final notes? Steel Eyes, Rebel Heart. You know why I love this image? The color. See, color can do a lot for you. There's a steel gray here in her hair, in the background, in her sweater, in her jewelry, in her eyes. It's steel blue, steel gray. It's just amazing that it's captured all throughout here. And I really like that. I like that a lot. And wonderful tones in the image. I mean, it's perfectly exposed. Nice expression, the tilt of her head. I didn't know it was you. Style meets confidence. I like the tilt of her head and her quirkiness. The background's competing for attention here, and I would want that less colorful. Her eyes are soft. Her eyes are the star of the show, and they're soft. They're really not sharp enough. Gotta make sure we get those eyes sharp. Super Surfer. Love the pose with her arms swung wide, great splashes, board position. Oh my God, she looks like she's going down. A faster shutter speed might have caught that face a little sharper. Tired but happy. Oh, sweet. I mean, how sweet. Gorgeous moment. Beautifully exposed. Well done. I might give the elbow more room. It's touching the frame. I might even give the hair more room. Or cut it down even lower. Cut it down even lower, but just grazing the top. It kind of looks like the frame cut him off. What a moment. Beautiful. Okay. Awards for people. Honors to Rising Above, Derek Cioffi. This is amazing. I mean, this is a 1 in a million shot, in my opinion. Honors to this gorgeous steel blue boy. You couldn't have picked a better background. Just the tones in this are so stunning. I'm sure this person is very happy about the picture. I hope she got it. Beautiful. Third place, Rain Dance. Gorgeous, balanced, motion, curves. Second place, Driver, amazing, Jane. Really. And first place is for this crazy rock shot, crazy shot. You did it, you nailed it. Okay. All right, we do have nature and creative left, and nature is a very long one. So where are we? All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So everybody can take a break. I'll be right back. Okay, I took the moment to also adjust my standing desk. I just moved it down. That's how quickly you can do it. I also went to the ladies' room, but I'm sitting now because I was standing for those 2.5 hours. Oh my God, or whatever it was. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to rush on through, and I can't believe we still have 45 people here. I hope that you're getting something out of this, everybody. I know that I can be pretty blunt and direct, but I'm also very honest about the fact that I'm the only judge and it's my opinion and my take on what I think is a quality image. But I really hope that you're picking up some things that might help you in the future.
We're getting great feedback, Christine.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, okay.
Yay.
Oh, great. And I'm sorry I didn't pause a little bit longer on the ribbon winners.
No, you keep rolling. As you said, you got a
Okay.
lot to go.
All right, ma'am, I will. All right, let me find my notes. And it's always helpful to have some things scrawled down so I don't cheat anybody, since my job is to give you information here. Okay, Misty Cypress. And with this, I don't know if it's the same maker, but look at this. There's the background of all these wonderful cypress trees, and then there's this long tree in front. And it becomes a pretty successful picture by doing that, by having a pattern that's broken. And this one, it happens to be in the center, which is another very interesting way to do it. Once again, I do wish I could see a little bit more of the texture of the needles, maybe only of the one in front, and maybe even a little bit more color. This is looks like a Gulf fritillary also. It's a potentially very good image that has been, in my opinion, very oversaturated. And you got to watch those damn sliders in processing. I'm telling you, they can be your ruination. These butterflies are beautiful the way they are. They don't have to, you don't have to be heavy-handed on the color. The composition is very good. You could see the spread of the wings. And the background is nice and soft, which means there must have been a distance, you know, between the butterfly and the background. There is a blurred wing here, so a little bit more depth of field would have prevented that. And it's not, I don't always have to have perfectly sharp wings, but when the display is like this would be a circumstance where you want to have the wings very sharp. A humpback whale. This is an unusual close-up of the mouth of a humpback whale. And I think these are called balines. I don't know, but that's what I remember from my interest in whales. And you've got barnacles on it and everything. It's just amazing. The background is overly light, unfortunately, with the horizon a little bit tipped to the left. Remember to pull out, there are horizon straightening tools, and I think I really recommend using them because you can't trust your eye. It doesn't always pick it up, but judges with experienced eyes will. And with this image, I would leave more room at the top, just so that his nose isn't touching the frame. Even though you wanted a close-up, you can still get a close-up with a little more space at the top. So that's my critique of that one. You're lucky to get it. The great barnacles, the pink, wonderful lines. Wow. Okay, irritated impalas. You've captured an interesting meeting of the horns here. I would crop in further. I would do whatever I could do in this case to get more of these two impalas, because this is a pretty unusual encounter. The other thing is, unfortunate, of course, his little hind end is all covered. And since this is the story, I don't know, I guess it's better this hind end is covered and this branch is in the middle of them, than this branch being in the middle of him. Very hard. I know I've been to Africa 3 times. It's a pretty impressive display, stomping and everything. Some cropping. This needs to be a little sharper here, the moving one. Too big. I love the winged display on this great blue. I think that's what it is. And the huge fish he's trying to catch. What a great story. What a great story. Until you get to the background. This background has a lot of grain in it. If you smooth it out with the denoise tool, it just disappears. It's then it's soft and buttery. And then you have this wonderful story in the front. Those eyes, beautiful capture, great diagonal lines. Clearly, you're fortunate these branches are in back. It's wonderful. I mean, they actually mirror the movement of the animal. The look at the background, so beautifully bokeh. So that's pretty nice. Nice job. Time for lunch. I was just in Alaska. We went to a puffin island and tried to get puffin with fish in their mouths. It's really tough to do, especially if they're flying. This is a good capture of the puffin with the fish. The chest area is a little white. Ooh, we need to capture some of the detail in there. Wonder if you could lower those highlights and get the detail back. You know, they're very high contrast birds, so they're hard. They're hard to get. This is unfortunate. It's I know it's realistic, but the way to kind of minimize the impact of this bright thing is to actually get it focused, believe it or not. Blurry white in the front is less appealing than having it sharp. And then maybe you could darken it a little bit if you're good at doing that kind of thing. Tone this down a little bit, or even I see that you couldn't get less of it because of the beautiful feet. I see your dilemma. Photography is a problem to solve. You can quote me. And a quote that a friend of mine made is that photography is an extreme sport, and I totally agree with that. Full nester. So the idea of capturing rim lighting, capturing lighting from behind is always a great one, but it also presents great problems. In this image, it looks like it was very bright light. Less bright light, early morning, later in the day would work a whole lot better, and then you wouldn't get this. You wouldn't blow out the beautiful downy feathers on the babies. So try to get this kind of image in softer light. Tough, and you could see the beginning of the great blue in this chick. Amazing. I wonder, the animal itself, the monkey itself, is beautifully lit.
Yeah, that was my,
What did she say?
she's like,
How long have you worked here?
like in the early time of day when it's not like later sun where
Got her. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Great clear eyes, wonderful face. Oh my God, you could just stare at this thing forever. It's just very, very interesting. It is brightly lit, but it's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and the bright lighting also accomplishes getting the eyes and the face done well. Rich texture, gorgeous color. Whoa, all of this light in the background is a little distracting, and I know you knew that. Any way to minimize that. This could have been actually shot a little bit darker, or and that might be a little bit better. Iceberg. Let's see. Whoops, do I have the right? Okay. I appreciate that it's very difficult to balance the darks and lights in a photo like this. Bright lights, dark darks, bright reds. It's very difficult to do that. And what's happened is that these whites are very blown out. There's no detail, and there's kind of fuzz on either side of this iceberg. So that's a problem. I think I would avoid getting the red jackets. This is a great one to share. Like if these are your friends and you want people to know this is how you capture the picture. It's just a difficult one to compete because of the technical issues. I love the fact that there's a boat under the arch. It's probably something that attracted your eye as well. Mother and child. This is a sweet portrayal of relationship between mother and child. Very difficult to capture these mountain ghosts like this, especially with a kid. And the kid shows that it's fearful. The image that I have in front of me is a little too blurry. And it might be that it's been enlarged too much for for the original resolution, but these guys end up being a little soft. I like the idea of putting them in the corner, especially because they're facing, well, the main goat is facing this way. It's an interesting idea. And with the moon up here, getting both the moon and the goat, I wonder if we could have gotten the moon a little sharper, and that might have required bracketing, focus bracketing. So taking one picture of, focused on the moon and another picture focused on the goats. That might have really had a huge impact. So just poetry in flight. Nice capture of a common bird in our lives, but it's a wonderful capture of an egret in flight. Everything's so beautifully clear, and the blacks show texture. Shooting a white bird dark has its rewards, and you are seeing the rewards of this lovely picture, and the background darkens, and that's fine. So that's a nice job. On the hunt. Cheetah, I believe. Very well exposed and focused. The wet fur adds more interest. Look at the tail wet, and some of the paw is wet. The background, that yellow green of the background is just, it just steals attention. And so post-processing for a competitive image would be helpful here in bringing down the saturation, the brightness. Ovipositing. Oh, it's so exciting to catch animals doing the things that they do. This one has a lot of parts of it that are soft, unfortunately. The tail is okay, part of this wing is okay, but then there's parts of the image that are very soft, like the eye. And when you're getting an insect this close up, you really need to get the whole, especially the head, the eye, sharp. It is interesting what happened here, in that you're getting I don't know why, I just recognized that the wings look so different up here than they do down here. That's interesting. They're actually sharper down here too. Interesting. It's a quandary. It's a mystery. But you did catch a rare moment. Chromatic Cascade, great title. Slice of the Rainbow, very differently presented. The clouds, I love the clouds in front of the rainbow. It just adds authenticity. This upper left corner of dark blue is putting it off balance. You can lighten the blue. I love the diagonal sweep. I would avoid, and most people will tell you this, I think, putting it from corner to corner. I would more try to get a little bit more sky down here. Just getting, not having something go from, because what ends up happening is it cuts the image right in half. So just avoid that the next time, but we've got some great ideas in here. It's a pretty cool image. Alone, at eye level, just beautifully done, beautifully exposed. And the beauty of this image is probably the aperture, in that the front of the image is soft, the back of the image is soft, and the slice of life where this animal is standing is beautifully exposed. Great title. Unusual angle. I love the eye level. You must have been on a boat or something, or the shore, way down close to the water. It's very interesting using this narrow depth of field. I think that's very clever. And you get the surrounding, you get some ripples of water in there that are very sharp. I like high key. although this isn't quite high key, but it's very white, background. I think that this bird needs to have a little bit more, darkening though, to get a little bit more sharpness in it. Just the bird. Into the mist. So I would want to see at least one bird sharp. And these are all kind of soft, even his tail feathers are a little soft. I like the spacing of the birds. I think that's very clever. And the reflections is very cute too. I like that. Showing off, yes, I guess, huh? Due to the really great lighting and the really fine processing that you've done, you've shown the pelican with its beautiful natural colors. I don't feel there's anything overdone here. It's just lovely. It's comical, it's brave as it's balancing. Maybe it's injured, I don't know. This wing is an important part of the picture. It's not always important to have the second wing sharp, but in this case, with this title, with this spread, and with the feathers missing on this wing, not showing on this wing, you need these sharp. So that would be my comment about that. A little longer depth of field. Walking on water. Does look like these cypress are walking on the water. It's an interesting idea to catch this slot here going back. I think I would be careful of how bright that is compared to the rest of it. You would still notice it without so much brightness in here. Toned down a little bit. My experience is that reflections actually usually often look a little bit better when they're a little bit less bright, less colorful, less sharp than the actual trees. That's just something to consider, and I think that applies in this case. And it might be because the reflection has all this other stuff in it. So you have competing material. Okay, flowers old and new. A title goes really well with the image, and it draws my eye to both of them being important. Now, because the center of this flower is so prominently displayed, you need to have this sharp, and even this insect in here. This is where the light is focused. It's actually up here and down here. This needs to be sharp. Moonwalk. This is quite amazing. The bokeh is gorgeous. Softness of everything is gorgeous. And then the bird, beautifully presented. And it makes sense to me. He has all this space. You've left all this space for the bird. So he must be going backwards. Very clever. Bubbles. I enjoy the different textures in this image. Lots of round shapes, right? I like the splashing up in particular. Diagonals are usually really wanted in an image. This diagonal somehow feels like it's cutting the image short or something. It's bright, and it's a bright line under the bubbles, and it kind of steals a little bit of thunder from the image. So I think I might have wanted a little bit more sharpness in here too, even though it's the background, it's part of the whole conversation about texture. And it starts to get soft really soon back here. I have no egrets. This egret is delicately presented with a beautiful softness and yet mostly clear. Could have used a little bit more detail here. The positioning is very interesting. The legs crossed, the head turned, looking over the shoulder. That's just pushes it up a notch from a straightforward portrait. The legs are showing beautifully with color and texture. Once again, we have a little problem with the background. It's just, it's bright. Now, the image could have been exposed a little darker because this is a white bird and you might have gotten a little bit more texture in the bird as well. That might have brought the highlights down a little bit more, but my experience is that you usually have to do something in post-processing to mute that a little bit, bringing both tone and color down. Kissed by the Sun. It's a beautiful capture of a dragonfly whose colors delightfully match the stem. The colors in the eye, it's just unbelievable. That's wonderful. Lighting and focus is very good. The background is very supportive of the creative being. It's very soft, neutral, and unobtrusive. Cormorant youngsters. Now there's a common bird, nicely presented. Very different. I like the pattern. There's 1, 2, and the third one has broken the pattern. Very, very cool. That gives you it. It's stimulating to our brains and to our eyes to see that, to see a pattern which is predictable and then a broken pattern. Sweet image. There's some humor in it. They're beautifully exposed. You can see all of their texture. The slanted tree branch is a great way to show them off. It gives movement to them, and the back is not too obstructive. Aurora and Ursa Major. Cool. And I believe this is Kirkjufell in Iceland mountain, and there are falls down below. Could be another one, but it's cool when you can recognize something. I like the fact that you captured the aurora near the mountain because it gives the image grounding when you have something interesting in front of the aurora. There is this odd band of light over here. I'm not quite sure what that is about. It could be part of it. I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe some, I don't know, dehazing. I think denoising would be necessary here to give it a softer, smoother texture than the kind of a spotty, grainy texture that I see. And that would really help this one. Here's looking at you. So that's a pretty close capture of, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what it is. It's a wolf or a fox, but it doesn't matter. If this were not so grainy and noisy, I can see that you caught that you have a potential for having all this beautiful texture in it, and the eyes and the nose and everything. I mean, it's just masked by all of the graininess in the texture. So I'm not sure if that was intentional, but I don't. My personal preference would be for it to just let it stand on its own texture, which is already beautiful enough in the wild. Making a point. An unusual presentation of an egret. It has a story, an interesting angle. The eye is soft. You got to have the eye sharp. It's in complete darkness somehow, and it's you can't see that beautiful red. So we need to have the animal is gesturing, and you need at least 1200 1/1200 shutter speed, even faster to catch these really sharp. Tough. The grasshoppers here are very sharp, and you can see the wetness, glistening and everything. It's a little hard because of the overlapping animals to see exactly what's going on. But the title does give you an indication. This leaf in the background is so distracting. Yeah, it's too bad. I might tone down the color a little bit too, just to, because the grasshoppers themselves are the fascination in this. Clever title, Dump and Jump. It's too bad he weren't dumping and jumping in the other direction, because what we have is a dark face and a very bright back. That's unfortunate. I mean, it's worth taking and keeping as a memento. But it's not going to compete well because of the lighting. The lighting is so important. You did use a pretty good shutter speed, because it's pretty focused, pretty well focused. Solitary Shroom. The texture on this is the story. And what you needed to do is to get all of the texture very sharp. And some of it is, and some of it isn't. You're doing a close-up apparently, and that could be very, very tricky. If you use a shallow depth of field in a close-up, you're going to get very little sharp. You have to use a very deep, like an f/16 or something, or use a different lens, because just because of the way lenses work with close-ups. We've got to give this lizard a much clever title, but P might mean something to the maker. It's really hard to see this lizard under the screen, and with the light hitting from behind, I understand the interest that you had in taking it, but it's not showing itself very, very clearly to the viewer. Two lovely cedar waxwings, which are, they come and then they're gone. I mean, they're hard to catch in Florida. They seem to be staring at each other, which is nice. I like the delicacy of the branch. It's very Asian, has a very Asian feel, the whole thing, with a lot of negative space. It's a lovely image. It's lovely. It's soft, it's a little soft. But it would be beautiful on a wall. Wings of roseate. Beautiful color on these wings. Really, you even have the orange shade of the tail feathers. This here is unfortunate. Very, very much in darkness and turning black. Lightning might bring it back, if you could just select the legs. But that is the rest of it is so beautifully done that you might want to try to get a little bit more from that. And look at the color here. It's beautiful, and it's not overdone. It's summertime. It's a nice portrait from the back of a hummingbird. And everything is pretty green in here, a little bit of yellow. It's an analogous color scheme. I think I might want to bring that in a little bit closer to have it more impact, because he's a little bit lost here in this big space. Nice eye. It looks very well focused. Just winging it. Understand the attraction of getting that female anhinga with its wings outstretched to dry. It's very dramatic. You're shooting again with the light from behind and what's happening, or actually on top of the bird. And so what's happening is we don't get enough light here. And you get the solid black as a result, and you don't get the beautiful texture in here. You do need more light on the front of the bird. Think I need a haircut. It's a great title, and it almost gets me to be okay about not seeing the eye, but not quite. I really want to see the eye. And I think it's because there's so much of the bird here and none of it is revealed. There's nice texture on the exterior, but I guess I want to see something that I can kind of pulls me in as a viewer. There's a bit here that's a little bit too white. I actually like this leaf here because it's kind of mirroring the posture, but these are very bright back here. I was just up with the Grizzlies in Alaska. Oh, this is scary. This is a scary guy. And I can see the mosquitoes you're referring to. So you have this nicely focused in here. The focus drops off very quickly. The ears become soft, and this is all very soft here. And that it might have been the same, you know, that you had a narrow depth of field or wide open aperture. I would prefer to see a little bit more because there's so much bare here. It's hard to kind of look at the softness and not be able to enjoy the wonderful texture of the bear. The eye, it's right on his eye. Jesus. Maybe just a close-up would be interesting. You'd have to de-lighten and desaturate that background if you did that. Those are some ideas. Okay, so this seal, same thing's happening. I see sharpness in here, but it's very soft here. And with a seal with such big sorry eyes, you want to see something in those eyes, some texture, a little bit of light. I like the angle of the seal, the colors in the background. It's just the seal himself, that portrait needs a little bit more, I think, clarity. And Together Forever. Boy, you must have had I'm telling you, you must have had somebody come along and talk to you about titling, because these titles are really, really good. So it's an unusual picture. I think they're manatees. They're rubbing noses and looking very fond of each other. And this nose is very, very well lit right here. It's about this nose is somewhat focused as well. Not a lot is because of, you know, they're under the water. The nostrils and the whiskers are interesting. I just figured out the eye. This is the eye, and there's pink. The eye needs to be a little clearer somehow. It needs to be brought out a little bit more because it's just not. It actually is pretty. It's potentially well focused. I'm not really sure, but it's so hard to see that eye. It just looks like a little divot. Some dehazing overall might work with this image. It looks a little light and washed out. So I'm wondering if the dehazing would really help it. Okay, we're at awards. All right, let's take a look. The top images, there were many top images in this category. I mean, I'm sure this is winning somewhere else because this is an amazing image. I guess maybe the black legs in the shadow could be a little bit lighter, but I just love the name. I love the background. I love the bird. I think this is a great example of how if you close up your light, you can get a great white bird because you've got not lots of wonderful texture and color in the bird throughout. Nice job, Kay. Love this. You know, I think the water is just so beautiful, and this little slice where the bird is standing, just a wonderful shot. This was amazing, third place. Beautifully done, beautifully captured. The whole animal is here, just gorgeous. I think this is the best picture of a dragonfly I've ever seen. Because of the colors, the focus is the focus is on different places. The main focus is on the tail. For some reason, I find that very charming, and I didn't have any problem with the soft parts of it. And sometimes that can happen if everything else works out, and that beautiful leading line and then this line coming in do very well. This was my favorite, my absolute unadulterated favorite. It was, and they're just cormorants, but what a wonderful catch. What a wonderful moment. Very sharp, beautiful image, just a classically well done image in every way. And they're wonderful feet. Nice job, Linda. Okay, I believe this is the last of it, and it's a short one. A fantasy seascape. Can't talk anymore, but lovely colors and lines with a pink framing. Or this order to this whoosh, is the diagonals. Very nice, a good example of ICM camera movement. Warm orange flowers. I like the technique, resulting in wonderful lines. Look at these lines coming down. Wispiness of the flowers. The colors are autumnal, so there's a theme here. Autumnal. I think I would change a couple of things to make this have more impact. It feels crowded up here. I would give it more space at the top, definitely. There's some elements that are fleeing off the frame. I would give more room for those elements, because they kind of take your eye out. And then I think that would make a big difference. Okay, great colors going from earth colors to violets and blues. So you've got the earth tones here, analogous tones, and then you gradually get them introduced in here, and you go to the back. Nice progressions, wonderful curves and lines, moving you through this image. The one shortcoming of the image is that the lighting is all the same. And so what happens is it feels flat on the screen rather than moving back. And even in creative, you can, especially in creative, you can do something with the lighting. You can vary it yourself. And it would give a great sense of depth and movement, even more movement than it's already got. Okay, Ocean Dream. In this one, there's you've got a story, more of a story, and I'm enjoying this very much. The movement of the bright yellow in the wave, and then the green blues around it. There's lots of kind of ordered activity in this one. And it would look great on the right wall. Great dynamics and geometry in this. This is a simple but grand story. Those are the things that come to mind when I see it. I love the scale, the small but bright beacon, and then the grand landscape behind it. It's visually beautiful as well as meaningful. There's pleasing geometry here. There's triangles and squares and rectangles everywhere. The curve of the sidewalk gives some softness. And there's a strong frame. on either side of the tower, which helps to contain the image. It's a little light here. It's just, this kind of a small subject with a grand, effect. Living the dream. What a beautiful treatment that this image received. It's pastels, it's soft, it's painterly. You see him painting. This looks like this. So there's a picture within a picture. Let's see. I love the notion that the real life landscape is painterly already, and the painter is just duplicating it on his canvas. To me, there's a lot of meaning in this, a lot of layers to enjoy. Psychedelic moon. It is psychedelic, and it's kind of painful to look at. It looks like a bullseye. I'm sensitive to color, and in here I just feel like there are too many bright colors to give a sense of order or balance in tone and hue. Even in creative, I'll be looking for that. So if somebody had a good time with this, just hanging out. I like the painterly effect. Painted flamingos makes perfect sense to me. They are somewhat crowded and on top of each other, and it feels a little confusing. But I really like it at the same time. And I think it helps that this little guy down here is looking in the opposite direction. These two are looking toward each other. And then these two are kind of doing a similar thing. It gets confusing around the periphery, I think is what is throwing me just a little bit. Alaska Armageddon. Whew. So it looks like a very interesting composite with a glacier here and a gigantic moon and some terrible things apparently happening in the sky. The effect that the person used certainly suggests an Armageddon. It feels very harsh. And I guess it matches the intent and the title. Unfortunately, there's some kind of unsightly streaks here around this cloud where I'm not sure where it begins and ends, and it's kind of partial and not partial. Maybe some of it could have been treated a little more softly to give that contrast that is very flattering to an image when you have some things that are harsh and some things that are a little bit softer, just like when you have bright and dark. So those are some of my thoughts on that image. Solar eclipse. It certainly is a terrific representation of the phases of the eclipse. It's neat, it's sharp. And I appreciate the natural little speckling in here that I assume is natural. It breaks it up. It breaks up the smoothness and gives variety. Nice job. Natural and realistic. Kind of a play on our wording in the rules, I think. Martian autumn leaves. Nice creative idea with leaves. Using ICM and slow shutter or whatever you used in here on colorful leaves. The blue one here is soft and still or the purpley blue, and still it shows the veins of the leaves, and the red is wispy and spreading off into so parts of it I really like how the effect has taken to these. The colors feel random. There's reds and greens and blues and oranges and yellows, and it's just a little bit too much color spatter for me. I want to see more cohesion in the image. a little bit more, maybe repeated patterns kind of a thing to get a good visual grasp on it. Vancouver Cruise Terminal. I like the creative idea of having, of desaturating, and I assume that that's kind of what happened. Or making black and white, sort of some of the buildings and the terminal itself. In contrast to the blue, green, violet of the waters, and they have the red loading gear. I think it would have worked better if the detail in the buildings was more clear. They're kind of fuzzy. When you see buildings, you expect to see, geometry and sharp lines, and I think they're a little too soft. There's also some areas that are just plain blurred out, and I think maybe water spots, I'm not really sure. There are faint traces of color in the buildings, which I think works okay, but when it gets to the sky, to me, it loses beauty, integrity, and so I think some of the ideas in here are great. The line, the strong diagonal line is cool. I like that part too. Reverie of a Lily. Nice pastel colors, greens and yellows with contrasting subtle violets. This lily to me looks a little unrooted, unsettled, without a base. It looks like it's floating a little bit. And then you've got really strong horizontal lines here that kind of stop my eye from going back, and yet there feels like there's a path going back here. So once again, even creative has things that you might look for, and one of them is that you might look for convincibility. Is the imagined image at all convincing to the viewer that it has beauty and order, and is the treatment compatible with the story you're trying to tell? So those are important ways to look at creative. Reflections on Unity. This image is quite unique, with a beautiful color scheme of blues and yellows. I see the ghostly people in the background, which connects in my mind with the ghostly rock representation behind the rock. So there's a mirrored effect, and that helps a cohesiveness of the image. I like the way the buildings seem to be wrapping around the main subject and framing it. And I enjoy the texture of the sphere without really understanding why it's so textured. But I like the texture and I like the color. Reflections on Unity. I imagine that the way and when you're able to connect with someone, with a viewer on your purpose, then I think you're on the way to being successful. There's unity in the circular shapes. Spheres and circles are symbols of unity, and you've got lots of that in here, and you've got semicircles in the building. So that's how I'm kind of connecting, and I really enjoyed that. Peonies for your thoughts. Very clever. I like it. This is tough. You've done what another person did, or maybe you're the same person. You've selected out of a grouping of something, a unique curve, a beautiful color to feature. And I think you've done it quite well, picking something out of a whole field of subject. The curving line is just a tad off center, which I like. And it leads you to look at the other flowers that support it. Perhaps it's an outdoor market, so it gives you a sense of place. I usually don't care for elements running out of a scene and the subject so close to the scene, but in this case, it's for some reason it does speak to me. And I think it's because some of the other strengths of it, even these flowers are kind of fitting in here. So there's some cohesion here. This yellow is playing off of these yellows. Those are some of the areas that are creating cohesion for me. So this is called Three Stooges. So the birds are interesting. It's an interesting, and they each have a different posture. I'm not liking the treatment. It's I don't know, somehow it doesn't fit for me with the birds. I'm not sure why the different squiggles were chosen. So maybe to differentiate this part of the image from this part of the image, so it's got different squiggles. And the birds have slightly different, this one is kind of flowing this way, but this one is kind of squiggling this way. You know, I'm having trouble being convinced that was a great idea. And the beak got deformed here. So it's fun. It's a very fun picture. Playing with the creative. Fabulous fall. The upper half of this image really looks like a beautiful watercolor. Look at that. It's just like a watercolor. The bottom half is a little dense for my eye. There's so much going on in the bottom half of it that I'm not even sure. Maybe it's providing some grounding for the trees, and then in that case I might even cut some of that off, so it's not taking up too much space. The smudging here, I might even cut some of that off. It's providing a frame in a sense, but then it's becoming too smudgy here. It's just a totally different texture on the edge, so it's drawing me to the edge. So there's parts of this that I really like this part, I guess. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, once again, looking for that cohesion. Morning walk in Nuremberg, got a nice simple curved street, buildings curving around, bikes lined up, so there's a frame to it, simple movement. I'm not sure, once again, that the squiggles, they're applied to some places like the building and the sky, and I'm just not, squiggly sky doesn't convince me that it's a good idea, I guess is what I'm saying. I like the much less squiggly buildings here. I think that works a lot better. So looking for the treatment to match the scene in my mind, and convince me that it was a great idea. Is where I am with that. Okay, so we have the awards. Honors. As I said, I love the way this wraps around and gives spheres and circles and symbols of unity and some cohesiveness. It's very, very interesting. Great representation of the eclipse. Nice job for someone who didn't see it. This painting within a painting is just delightful. And I think this is wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a small beacon in a big world, right? It's just fabulous. And this was my first place choice. I love this image. I think ICM is a hard thing to please, or slow motion, or however you did it. It's hard to please everybody, it can be very subjective. What I look for is a little bit of concreteness, a little bit of a story. I look for, you've got two waves here, so you've got repetition, and lots of movement, power and grace. It's just fabulous. Nice job, Wayne.
There you go. Christine, this is wonderful. You haven't had time to see the comments, but lots and lots of people saying thank you, and they've learned so much and good points. So thank you very much. And I was writing down all the winners, lots of good winners spread out everywhere. So thank you.
Good. I'm so glad that most people were able to last it out, and this is very hard for me to do. Because I of course don't want to say anything negative about anybody's picture. I justify it because I've been a teacher all my life, and I feel like if I have something to teach and I can say it as constructively as possible, that I will do it. But a lot of people won't judge and critique for that reason, because it is uncomfortable.
Christine, I wanted to say that this is my first time actually seeing a critique. I've attended one or two meetings, the Captain Kangaroo guy, that's me. I was just blown away by everything I saw tonight. And also with your critique, I'm okay with critiques. They're always useful. I actually felt like I'm a Neanderthal with an Instamatic with one of those cube flash bulbs. So I'm looking forward to learning more.
Wonderful. I'm glad it's excited you. That's a good result. I am reading some of these. I really appreciate your comments. I did not have time to look at them at all, so this is really great.
Well, Christine, I just want to say, I think you do a super job. My picture's not up there because, you know, it would be frightening to see me right now, but I just, you're honest with your critique, but you're not harsh with your critique. So you do an excellent job. So thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Becky. I'm glad to hear that that's how I came across to you. That's how I would want it to come across to everybody. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
And lots of kudos to you, Dave. People were saying, Liz, good job getting Christine. I'm like, I didn't do it. Dave did it. So yay,
Yeah.
Dave.
Dave, you're amazing for putting this whole thing together and holding it together and tying all the pieces in and all the people. I mean, I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. It's a big effort for the month of September, but it just matches the effort by all the people that put images together for the competition. Thank you to all of those. Look forward to the next one.
Well, if I ever do it again, I'm going to try to be a little faster at the beginning. Sometimes I start off slow at the beginning, you know, and it was 3 hours.
You're probably exhausted.
I am. I'm going to
So
go.
we'll let you hang on and read the comments, but we can let others go, drop off because they've hung in there with us, which is great, but super job. Thank you so much.
You bet. It's great to see you too, Liz.